Hi, welcome to my bungalow. I'm Eleanor Burns, and this is my sister, Patricia Nagel.
Hi.
Well, today we're taking you back 70 years, so we've dressed special for the occasion. Like your hat, Pat.
Oh, thank you. I like yours.
Thank you. Well, when President Hoover inherited the nation in 1928, the country was recovering from World War I. The lifestyle of the family as we had known it no longer existed. Now, those were the crazy days of veteran unemployment versus a newfound prosperity based on something widespread called credits. However, optimism was at an all-time high, and Hoover promised 2 chickens in every pot and a car in every garage. But we all know the Great Depression had already started, and soon 10 million Americans were out of work. Everyone was scrambling to survive. But it didn't take long for major newspapers to realize that they could sell newspapers if they just added a quilt pattern. Now, quilt patterns made the papers more desirable, especially for the ladies. There was something to look forward to other than just the bad news. Well, Florence LaGanke was a quilt pattern designer whose work was syndicated in newspapers nationwide. Now, she was actually a food writer for the Cleveland Press, and I wonder, how does a food writer know quilts? But anyhow, she entertained readers with stories about a fictional person called Nancy Page and her weekly Tuesday club meeting. Now, the column became known as the Nancy Page Quilt Club. And each week, Florence printed one pattern from a quilt and gave the readers a week to complete the block. We need at least a week. And she also ran a fascinating serial story, typical of the times, along with the pattern. And oh, the stories were fun to read. Actually, the stories sound like minutes from a quilt guild meeting, and there were regular members attended as Alice and Vera and Marjorie. Now, the Nancy Page Club was copyrighted by Publishers Syndicate. The contributions for the patterns were sent from readers in all parts of the country. Garden Bouquet, this one, ran from February through July of 1932 in the Nashville Banner. And this is the drawing that introduced the quilt. Now, each week, Nancy printed a flower pattern in this quaint-looking urn right here, and there were a pair of charming birds on the side. Now, this one was the saucy bird looking up, and then the other one was the meek bird. Oh, well, this is the beautiful quilt that a reader made following Nancy's instructions exactly as she included them, even down to the green urn. Now, she described the daffodil. Let's see if you can find that daffodil, Pat.
Daffodil, it must be yellow, down there with a blue saucy bird and a yellow meek bird.
Cute. And this is what she said. The daffodil is for those of us who are tired of the winter. My heart with rapture thrills and dances with the daffodils. Pretty corny, huh?
Yeah.
Well, and actually, I love that blue, the black and white striped bird.
Could that be a zebra bird?
No, it's a jailbird.
Oh. How about the flower? What's that look like?
With all of those French knots, it's got to be a tiger lily.
Tiger lily, and oh, that's a tough one. What could that be?
It's pansy. It's
my
purple.
favorite, yeah. And we have something here. I'm not sure if it's a lily of the valley or what would you call that?
I think that the shape of it makes it be Canterbury bells.
Canterbury bells. And how about the polka dot bird?
The blue bird of
Love
happiness.
It. Oh, yeah.
Of course.
It makes me happy. And this is my favorite. It's the cactus. I love these little prickly applique lines.
And I like the saucy bird in his green stripe. Terrific.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's cute. Now, another series was the Magic Vine Quilt. Now, this is the first page that was printed in the newspaper, and it introduced the series to the readers. Nancy writes that she got the idea for the Magic Vine Quilt from Jack and his magic bean vine, and the fact that her own little daughter was growing just like that vine and the flowers. She said, why not make a magic vine quilt to dream under? Ooh, the flowers are just beautiful. I love all the pastels. Now, actually, there are 44 flowers on the vines. Each vine has 11 different flowers, and if you see, the first and the third vines are the same, and then the second and the fourth vines repeat each other. Now, this is your challenge, Pat.
Oh.
I want you to see if you can identify the down gentian. That's a good one.
I have no idea. Not a clue.
A wild rose, a morning glory. You should know morning glory.
Right.
Okay, I know you know pansy.
Pansy, the purple pansy.
And the tiger lily.
The tiger lily is easy.
And the tulips.
The tulips.
Oh, easy.
Easy.
Well, Nancy said this quilt would make a fitting covering for the cherished four-poster or the modern headless and footless affair called a bed. Doesn't sound like she likes the new beds, huh? Now we have another quilt. This is a great one. Just flip that one out of the way, because this one is called Grandmother's Garden Quilt. It was a wonderful series quilt. Now I have most of the original patterns, and they were cut from the Salt Lake Tribune. Oh, look at this. Now, they were a gift from Joyce Yenny of Del Zorro, California. Now, each week, the quilt maker would just carefully cut out the pattern, and then right here in the envelope, she put all of the pattern pieces and saved it all together. Now, the scrapbook is very fragile now, but, oh, it's just great fun to look through. Now, she apparently missed some weeks. She missed the one featuring the shooting star right here, and the jonquil, and also the morning glory, because she had to hand trace these, probably from a neighbor's copy, and then she just placed them in her scrapbook. Now, this quilt has actually 25 blocks.
No, I counted 30.
Oh, okay, 30, you're right. Yeah. Well, it's appliqued flowers in the piece baskets. Now, the original Nancy Page quilt only had 17 flowers. So you might recognize some of them. What's your favorite, Pat?
Oh, I'm trying to distinguish. I love this little lily of the valley. I'm so impressed by the scale, such tiny little pieces to applique, and then the tiny little hearts and the bleeding heart. Here's the fuchsia. I love that one has almost a smiley face in the middle, the yellow one. Do you see that?
Yeah, that one's the jonquil. Jonquil, yeah, it's
Oh.
really great. Well, I found this top last year in Paducah, Kentucky, and Jane Bowman from San Diego quilted it for me, and she actually repeated the piece basket in the quilting design. She did a wonderful job. It's just beautiful. Well, that was fun showing you all of these vintage quilts from the Nancy Page Club. Now, I want to read you some text written by Florence LaGanke, and it's copied directly from the first page of the Grandmother's Garden series. It was the Nancy Page Neighborhood Club which started it. They had been studying early American home life. They had traced the development of the architecture, furnishings, and silver. They had read of the struggles for food. And then, as things eased for these early settlers, they found accounts of feasts, the kind which were served at quilting bees. Well, this led them to a study of the handiwork of the early American women. References were made again and again to quilts. They saw some pictures of intricate patterns and examples of wonderful quilting. A visit to the city's historical museum with its marvelous exhibit of quilts led them to rummaging in their own attics, and that in turn was the beginning of the famous Grandmother's Garden Quilt.
Why couldn't we make a quilt too?
We could. Why, we could take the flowers which grew in the old-time garden.
There's the trillium and the bluet. The bluet is similar to the forget-me-not, except it has only 4 petals, which makes it easier to applique. The forget-me-not has 5 petals. Or we have the harebell, which is really one of my favorites. Look at that color.
Perfect. They're beautiful. Well, just think how lovely it would be. Well, we could make each block different. We could have the white background We could have the buff baskets. Oh, show the buff baskets.
Buff baskets.
Nancy just loved buff baskets, and she loved blues and pinks, lavenders and yellows, and green for stems and leaves. Well, each one of us could piece one block, and each block would be different. What do you think? Well, Nancy had scarcely put her idea into words before the room was agog. Now, what is it when the room's agog?
I don't know.
They're like, I'm so excited.
I want a piece of daffodil with this lovely piece of calico left over from a dress. Will you design the blocks, Nancy?
I have it, said Nancy. In Grandmother's garden, there was a rose bush at each corner. One was yellow, one was apricot, one was deep rose, and one was bluish pink. Well, why couldn't we have a rose at each corner of the garden? Well, Nancy was elected to work out the scheme and to tell them how much material was needed. They decided to sell the quilt at the community bazaar, and they agreed to come to the next meeting with their scissors, their needle, their thimble, and their thread. They had plenty of time later to gossip and drink tea. Well, that was a fun story. Now, can't you just imagine Nancy and all of the club members in their cloche hats and their slenderizing dresses? Cool. Well, I'll tell you what. We do have time to drink tea.
Sounds good.
But let's forget the gossiping
Aww.
because we have our grandmother's garden quilts to share with you.
I would love a cup of tea. What are we having?
We are having chamomile and honey. It is very relaxing for us.
Sounds perfect.
We've been working with the original Nancy Page patterns for the Grandmother's Garden quilt, and we've each come up with a new quilt that suits our individual lifestyle. So, how is your lifestyle these days, Pat?
I'm married to a very special husband. He cooks, he cleans, he even does laundry. I can sew as much as I want as long as I don't interfere with his woodworking.
And she won't loan them to me. And I also have a very busy schedule. I have a business to run. I'm the chief cook, bottle washer. My children are grown, but I'm still the party planner, the entertainer. So, this is my quilt. I took it the easy way. I did some flat, easy flowers, and they're just about the same, only they're all done by machine. That's the best part. I'll tell you some of them. This is the bleeding heart right here. This is the rose, the yellow rose. And then right up here is the balloon flower. Now, I think between Patty's fussy flowers, maybe 2 hours. Mine done in maybe 20 minutes. What do you think? Does that sound
2
good?
hours for the yellow rose.
For the yellow rose.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. And so now, what about the fabric for the flowers?
Well, this is my favorite part in every quilt. I love to pick the fabric. This is the fabrics we've selected to make all the flowers. Doesn't it look like a rainbow?
It does. It's beautiful.
I love it. And we've chosen from each color family. This is the yellow family. We have a light, a medium, and a dark. And from the yellow family, we made the jonquil.
This one right here.
Yeah.
And this one has a nice little dimensional bud in the center.
Yeah. Now, the colors are closely related in value, but there is some contrast in the texture, which creates a subtle blending of the colors when you put them together in the flower.
And then up here is the
tiger lily.
Oh, and I love the French knots. And look at that. That's great.
The bud.
And then over here,
the yellow rose.
All right. This is the dimensional one. This one is
the 2-hour rose.
The 2-hour rose. And mine's the 20-minute rose.
Yeah, and if you noticed on Eleanor's rose, she had a flower in the middle, a fussy cut made from this floral piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the peach family. And from the peach family, we have the peach rose.
Right here.
Yeah, and then the poppy, you can make your poppy orange if you're making the California poppy. I chose the pink poppy because those are my mother's favorites. Her pink poppies grow all over the yard.
I think we all love pink. And the pink.
Trillium.
Uh-huh. And this one has like a double flower. This is 2 pieces of green fabric.
Right.
And then over here,
the bleeding heart is pink.
the cute hearts underneath.
Yeah, those are done on the machine. See, I can use a machine.
You can. Did you show the pink fabrics?
Yeah, these are the pinks. We have lights, mediums, and darks. And then this is the fuchsia. And this is what we call a mottled fabric. As you can see, there are areas of light and dark within the fabric. And this can make a really interesting flower. If you pull from different parts of the fabric, you can see the fuchsia fabric or the fuchsia flower of the same name using different shades of the fuchsia.
And I love all of the stitchery right up here. All the little embroidery stitches are good.
Now this is another way to work with that mottled fabric. As you can see on the pansy, I've used the dark flower, and then the lighter part of the fabric I used in the back part of the pansy. And then the rest of the red family, we have a dark red. This is, I wanted to talk a minute about the size of the fabrics. This cut is what's called a fat eighth, meaning it measures 9 by 21, or the fat quarter measures 18 by 21. So if you collect fabrics of these sizes, you should have plenty to make your blocks from.
And this is perfect for fat eighths and quarters. Where's your red rose?
Here it is.
So good.
I was working on this last night. I combined the bright red with the burgundy.
That works good.
Yeah, I had fun with it. Now, the purple family. I'm a purple person.
You love purple.
Yeah, these are the kind of the red violets, the light, mediums, and darks. There's a lot of purple flowers.
Right
this is
here.
The crocus.
And this one, I think this is your favorite one.
The pansy.
And you're so good with that variegated pearl cotton right there.
Yeah, that's my favorite. The pearl cotton, I use the pearl cotton in the center of the pansy, and then in the morning glory.
Oh, yes, look at this one.
Yeah, I prefer the pearl cotton because I do a lot of French knots. The pearl cotton doesn't separate while I'm making the French knots. But I did use an embroidery floss. You see the light shading in the middle of the pansy?
Right.
No, that's not a pansy. That's a morning glory. But I use 2 or 3 strands of floss when I want to do little delicate stitches.
Okay, Pat, take a guess. What's this one?
Oh, that's a toughie. That's the zinnia.
With the ruching right around the center of the flower, too.
Yeah, and then we have the shooting star. Can you find that one?
Okay, right down here we have
red violets.
Red violets.
And then moving into the blue violets, or as you might call them, the lavenders or the periwinkles. Yeah, that's the harebell. And then the Canterbury bell.
Right up there.
Yeah, those combine nicely with the blue fabrics, which we use also in the bluet.
Oh, whoops.
Oh.
No, not clear down here.
Yeah, there's the bluet.
The bluet. And it has that nice dimensional center in it, a little folded flower.
Yeah.
And this one is really blue with the balloon flower.
Right.
That's a good one. Okay, now we need to have some green for our leaves. And you've seen a variety of the greens in the quilt. The light green, and this one is a great one because this is a fussy cut for the leaves. You can just fussy cut out all of those leaves in it. And we actually used a piece of ombre green, and this is great. Now, ombre means that it graduates from light to medium to dark, all in one piece, so you get the variety of your colors in it. You need to have at least a yard of your green so you can fill your whole quilt with that color. So now, let's talk about the background.
Oh, I want to talk about green, because green is, I say purple's my favorite color, but I especially love the greens, and I try to choose a variety of shades of green. If you observe the greens in nature, you see the rich quality created by the blending of all the greens, the yellow greens, the blue greens, the gray greens, and that's why I use an assortment of greens. It's more exciting than talking about background.
Oh, come on.
Background, well, you can choose a tone-on-tone, or perhaps something as simple as a muslin. Or if you want to go dark, you can use a dark background, such as this.
Perfect. Now that one is pretty much for the solid square setting. I did the lattice and cornerstones, and you need to pick a stripe that is at least 3.5 inches in width. And this is a great one because it actually has very little waste in it, 12 stripes the whole way across. Now I use this stripe also in many of my baskets. That's what was really fun. You have such a variety in the basket colors, and actually use some of the stripe pieces in with the basket fabric so that you have that great variety. Ooh, it looks great. Well, this looks like fun. Boy, we have every piece of fabric we could ever dream of for this quilt.
So what do you want to make first?
I want to make the basket first. We know you can't make a bed-sized grandmother's garden quilt in a day, but we have plenty of one-block wall hangings you can make in a day. So let's show them, Pat.
This is a bluet. With these colors, wouldn't it be perfect for a little girl's room? A nice gift?
It is great. It has solid triangles right here, a folded border, and then the mitered border in the stripe. Just perfect. And the next one is the Zinnia, the purple with the corners. Oh, the ruching there. That's a good one. Pull it on. Now, if you're into pink, how about the poppy? And we used a large scale floral print in the side triangles right there.
And free motion quilting outlining the flowers.
That's perfect. That's a good one. Now this is a beautiful country French look in the yellows and in the blues. It's very feminine looking with a John quilt, but we do want to show you that this is the pieced basket. Now if you want to go for something even easier, you could use the easy basket pattern. That's something that we're going to be showing you too. Look almost identical, but you know, Sue did this one in 4.5 hours, start to finish, even with machine quilting.
Now this one I'm very proud of. This is the French Bouquet, which I designed, and then our best student, Aiko Rogers, made this, and she entered it in a quilt show, and look at the ribbon. She won third place in the wall hanging division.
Wall hanging, it's so cute. And what I love is the saucy birds up in the corners from the Florence LaGanke. This is from the Grandmother's Garden Bouquet. All right, that's a cute one. Now that same easy basket we used again in a 4-block wall hanging with a tulip repeat. Tulips over and over again. Finish them off with a blanket stitch. Ooh, it's so fresh and fun looking. And then Diane Knight took the piece basket and used a blue background all around the 4 roses. Instead of a rose in each corner of the garden, she put it in one quilt. And the last quilt, oops, I forgot, a couple more here.
One little quilt.
One little quilt, the little basket. And that's all done with 4.5-inch squares. We'll show you that in one of the programs. And then Salvage Sally. This one is also from the newspapers in the 1920s and 30s. It says, rescue gay bits of scraps. And put together so cute. And the last one is one of my favorites. This was done by my friend Sue Bouchard. Very traditional looking and solid colors, probably just like Nancy Page's people would have used it. And so I'm going to use a line, a closing line from the Nancy Page Club. Well, each member of the Nancy Page Club was visualizing that beautiful white quilt with its drift of pastel colors in her own guest room. Well, may you too visualize that quilt and gather your fabrics together.